Hello, gentlemen. All gentlemen of all walks of life. Young, teen, young adult, a little bit older adults. I'm talking to you all specifically about your love life. And if you're in a relationship or even married, you've probably had some really stressful times, like all relationships do. And during those stressful times, you've probably thought about couples therapy or even tried it. And if you were the lucky ones or the ones that don't really speak up, you're probably the ones that had couples therapy that was given in the most important pieces of your life or stages of your life, and you were given a gift and you have nothing but positive remarks. However, though, if you're the man who hated couples therapy, you've tried it and you were left feeling like you were the bad guy, feeling more blamed, misunderstood, like nothing changed, or that you're left feeling like you have no choice but to break up or divorce, all I want to say is you're not alone. A lot of men go into therapy to try to fix a relationship that is under stress, that needs a little bit of a revamp. But some of the men or some of the relationships are left feeling like they are in a sinking ship, a ship that is never meant to have sailed even, and there were more problems along the way and you can't fix, or they are not capable of fixing. And today I'm going to be specifically breaking down why couples therapy sometimes doesn't work for men, or when it can, and when it can actually start getting the needle moving in the relationship that you're in or the marriage that you're in. But before I begin, hello, my name is Christy. I'm a therapist and a relationship coach, and in this channel we are trying to close the gap between men, women, people, and fulfilling relationships, genuine relationships, people and their mental health, men and your mental health, and give you some tips and advices as to why you are making the same repetitive mistakes over and over again. And so if you're old here, welcome back. I'm so happy to see you again. Comment down below what brought you here, what made you click onto this video, what kind of struggles are you going through, or are you just joining us? Well, welcome. And if you're new here, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button and that like button. It helps us understand what kind of content you guys like learning from, and obviously it helps the algorithm. But before I start yapping nonstop about our whole mission and why I'm so passionate about mental health, I'll probably stay quiet. Okay, so let's start with the video. And number one, the common complaints about men who go to couples therapy. And this is what I hear in our practice before we start individual therapy, specifically for some of our clients who've been in relationships or in relationships that are under a lot of stress, brink of divorce per se, soon to be a statistic per se. Number one, I felt ganged up on. Number two, we just rehashed the same fight over and over and over again. Number three, nothing changed. Number four, I feel like she is never going to see my side. Number five, she fired the therapist. Sounds kind of familiar? You see, a lot of men are not taught that women have to actually understand how you process things. They don't put that standard up. Number two, it's because you're not socialized to speak in an emotional language. It's not how you were generally built in biology. And in couples therapy, in traditional couples therapy, as it's currently specifically designed and even taught to us, it leans a lot towards verbal processing, which favors how women are typically conditioned to express emotion. So what happens? Let's get to the point, Christy, right? Men get cornered into admitting the wrongdoing or taking accountability while the deeper relationship dynamics go untouched. There's also a behavioral concept, obviously, I think you've all heard about it, called confirmation bias, the tendency to seek information that confirms what you already believe. Now, when two human beings in a relationship go into couples therapy, they have a laundry list of things that they want to get out. And in therapy, this shows up when the partner brings up grievances, and the therapist often very much unintentionally follows her narrative, reinforcing her emotional experience while sidelining your logic or your lack of words or your lack of rebuttal or leadership. And so this specifically happens because within therapy, you're kind of taught to be a lot more emotional, give scenarios, give the emotional hurt and resentment that you feel. And most oftentimes, at least with a lot of our male clients, the emotion is kind of hard to take back or re-experience, and you're just stuck in the event cycle, the logic cycle. And sometimes she takes up a lot more of the time and the space because she's the only one talking. So it can feel like the therapist and your girlfriend or wife is teaming up on you. So if you've ever experienced this, all I want to say is that's why I highly suggest individual therapy before you go into couples counseling. And I do know a lot of therapists, counselors, mental health professionals may suggest that. And if they don't, I'm telling you right now, you should, because you need to get your thoughts right and your emotions on a piece of paper before going into a couple session. And so if you want that type of support and it's actually something you're looking for, you can feel free to book a private call with one of our team members on our team, and we can rebuild a sense of roadmap, clarity, and reflection as to what happened in the relationship, so you don't feel like you're getting teamed up on, because you have to prep for it. And the link is in the description. Now, number 2, what is the original intention or theory behind couples therapy? Now, there's theory and then there's experience and execution. So let's be fair, not all couples therapy follow this route and you get rewarded by it, right? However, what is it supposed to actually do? In theory, it's obviously designed to help two people communicate better, understand each other's needs, build a little bit more empathy towards each other's differences or point of view. But what it's supposed to do is obviously understand where you guys are at, how far of a gap you are from each other, and start closing that gap a little bit by understanding the differences that you guys have, and also set some clear structure as to how life should look like moving forward, even if it's just as short as 1 week. It is supposed to give you a sense of structure. However, what I want to emphasize is it takes 2 people to tango. It takes 2 people who are equally committed to seeing the other person's point of view and not going in with a confirmation bias for it to work out. Now, obviously speaking, not all relationships are blessed like that. The models that most therapists are trained in and usually comes very natural to them, especially when they are women, is called emotion-focused therapy, or EFT for short, and it's called the Gottman method. And what it prioritizes specifically is emotional vulnerability and interpersonal repair. However, though, as I said in the beginning, a lot of women are much more in tune, you could call it, with their emotions, or overthink, or are anxiously provoked much more. And so it's easy for them to be emotional. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, to be fair, but it also assumes that both people are equally committed to being equally emotionally mature, with the equal emotional capacity to meet each other's emotional needs of understanding. And that's not always the case, as much as I've seen it in practice. Sometimes one person doesn't have the capacity to tap into their emotions as much, and I'm talking to you men. And she may label you as emotionally avoidant, or using therapy as a room to seek moral superiority and not healing, control. Sounds like you? Right? What I want to say is, with here, it takes a really good therapist to see and understand that it is not a power dynamic that we're dealing with, but a differences in the way we view the world, we process emotions, and we use emotions to make decisions in our life or to react to certain scenarios. And if you're a man trying to lead through that chaos or be emotionally more vulnerable or emotionally mature to her standards, when you're not actually built that way, it can feel like she's trying to micromanage you, when in reality, she just doesn't understand you. And so I would challenge that. But the theory behind couples therapy is obviously to try to help you guys out a little bit more, but sometimes it doesn't always turn out that way. Now, number 3, why do men and women react the way they do in couples therapy? And what do we look for in relationships, specifically as therapists, when we try to read couples and their health? So let's break it down psychologically, okay? Evolutionary psychology tells us that men, most generally speaking, now I'm not talking to one person, I'm generalizing here very specifically at this point of the video, are oftentimes driven by function, logic, rationale, solutions, and what I call status preservation. While women are often attuned to emotional safety, social bonding, and threat detection. And in therapy, this can create a huge mismatch. When I call huge mismatch, she's talking about how she feels unsafe or unheard, and he is trying to solve the conflict so they can move forward. From a behavioral standpoint, therapy often triggers the fight or flight responses, especially in you gentlemen who've been criticized over and over again, emotionally stonewalled over and over again, and manipulated at home over and over again. And in social psychology, it also adds to the twist in the mixed gender settings where men tend to be underreporting their emotional hurts, vulnerabilities, and pains due to the fear of judgment or losing status, specifically in your relationship. You don't want to be the weak one here. And so you don't even report some of the resentment, or when she said this and it hurt you, or when she said that and it embarrassed you, you don't say it. And so it can feel like she's the only one feeling some sort of way, but when in reality, you also feel some sort of way, you just didn't report it until you explode. And so what that looks like is resistance. The woman can feel like you don't care, but in actuality, it's just a defense mechanism on your end. And this is why we don't want men to just throw the towel away in a relationship that could be mended. And we also don't throw men in couples therapy right away, because usually your first experience in couples therapy will usually dictate whether or not you go back. And I don't want you to be underprepared or expect miracles to happen, because it probably won't. Overall, that's why we focus on individual therapy, help you build a little bit of clarity, help you restore a little bit of emotional awareness as to the times in which you forgot or sacrificed or was hurt but never spoke up, and take back some sense of awareness so you can prep for that couples session and take back what I call leadership in your relationship. Take that power back a little bit. So if you're interested in speaking to an individual therapist and you want to understand how to better prep for communicating with your girlfriend or wife, click the link in the description below and you can speak to one of our therapists. So, number 4, it sounds like I have spoken on and on about the negatives about couples therapy. Now, I'm not trying to highlight that at all. And so I want to go over when couples therapy is actually extremely useful and times that it's not. Look, we're not here to tell you couples therapy is going to fix everything, but we're also not here to tell you that couples therapy doesn't ever work. What kind of therapist would I be if I tell you that? But there are moments that it can help and it cannot. So first, let's start off with the moments that it can. Number 1, when both people are emotionally committed to change and growth. When both people are committed to finding a solution even when they don't know what it is. Number 2, when both people are committed to not be biased, but to actually put the other person's point of view in reflection, and vice versa. Very crucial. You're not trying to win, you're trying to understand. Number 3, when a therapist is highly trained in what I call male-friendly communication models, and obviously also female and women. However, though, most therapists will be trained to be emotionally focused. Not a lot of therapists understand how men function and how they think. And so you need to find a good one. And the very last one, when there's already mutual trust. There's trust going in, and you're not going in hoping to have a therapist fix your issues. It's not going to happen. There needs to be trust embedded and a clear identification as to why you guys are going to couples therapy to begin with. But most of the times when things have gotten a little bit too messy in relationships or marriages, what I've seen is, especially if those relationships has been very emotionally distraught, there's a lot of emotional manipulation, some infidelity on your end, infidelity on her end. Both partners are extremely toxic. Going straight into couples therapy and hoping for a miracle to happen is never going to happen. It just becomes damage control or maintenance for maybe the next couple of days per se, but it doesn't fix the underlying issues, which what I would suggest individual therapy first for you gentlemen to feel a little bit more aware about where your pains are actually coming from and what you want to communicate. Because you're no longer trying to change her, you're trying to actually take full responsibility for the things that you need to take accountability for and highlight the 4 or 5 objectives or problems that you felt like were the most influential and hurtful incidences in your relationship, so you can both show up a little bit differently. In individual therapy, what normally a good therapist will do after a couple of sessions is reflecting your blind spots. What were the times that you just act like nothing happened and you should have spoke up, understanding your traumas, your triggers, and what people love to use, your attachment style, and how that influence your behaviors in the relationship, what your identity as a man is embedded on, what are the rules you've set yourself to be, and what kind of standards do you set yourself to be the best man that you can. What does power mean to you, and what does a bad version of a man mean to you? Learning how to lead with both strength and emotional intelligence, mostly for yourself first, before others. And one of the hardest pills to swallow for a lot of our clients when they do start this journey of individual therapy for the first time is realizing you gave your leadership away in the name of peace. Can we have a moment for that? You gave away your leadership in the name of peace. But peace doesn't always come with passive reactions or acting stoic or acting like you are undefeatable or emotionless in moments of triumphs and terror. It comes with knowing who you are and what kind of relationship you're willing to build and wanting to build. And so if you can speak to that, comment down below. Hello. So I know you're here. So gentlemen, here's the truth. Most couples therapy doesn't teach men how to lead with love. It teaches them how to appease. It teaches you how to appease because it's emotionally focused. But if you're a man who wants a relationship in which you're both emotionally and structurally solid, in which you both have a good understanding of your standard of operation through life, how you're different, that takes a lot of clarity, self-work, and guidance that is specifically first tailored to you in an individual therapy. You need to know who you are before you know how you're different from her. And so it is not about just boundaries or if she says this, I'm going to say no. It's first understanding how you're built, understanding how she's built, not having any animosity towards her, and for her to get into a good understanding that not to have any animosity for you, and deciding which buckets you guys are actually a little bit more competent in life and having some understanding towards that. And that's specifically what we do. We don't point fingers. We're different And that's the beautiful thing. And we help men understand that you don't have to be similar, you don't have to appease, you don't have to be a nice guy to survive in your relationship. Happy wife, happy life is not always the answer. And so it's time to break your patterns and start building a better life, better mental health, more resilient mental health. Actually be stoic by understanding your emotions and not just stonewalling them, forgetting about them, and hoping it will all go away, and stop wasting time in the same cycles because it will go nowhere. So if you're interested in talking to one of our therapists specifically, click the link in the description and you could book a private call with one of our team members, because all you need is the right tools, not a lecture. We're not here to be professors or have this be a school lecture for you. I want you to know when it is time for you to take authority and when to step back a little bit. Until next time, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. Bye.
Hi everyone, if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to follow us on TikTok and IG where we post daily, and YouTube where we post weekly.